Time for budget. Hello and welcome to a new episode on budget options for coffee. I'm Francis Peck, and so today I'm presenting this Koenic. Actually, last episode was also on a coffee grinder, and that is because grinding is the single most important step, you know, after roasting and harvesting and etc. But for you as a end user, as a consumer, it's the single most important step to get you kind of a good quality cup. So I found this one again in MediaMarkt. Actually, it's really, I'm not affiliated at all. This was just short of 40 euros, so it's already a little more expensive than the blade option I discussed in the last video. Now, the blade option is definitely a valid option if you're going for a filter style of coffee, but if you want to go for espresso, a blade, it's theoretically, I guess it's possible in combination with a pressurized basket, but out of consciousness I cannot really recommend that. So this Koenic is, if you look at the packaging, it's a brand of MediaMarkt or Saturn. I guess this is the same company. It's a big tech shop here in Europe. We have it in Belgium, Germany, I imagine the Netherlands, many countries, and what they basically do here, I think, is, you know, you have kind of a white label grinder that they then call it Koenic, because this same model, I did see it on Amazon, other places, sold. Actually, this was surprisingly a little more expensive on Amazon. Doesn't happen that often, so I would say, yeah, you know, I really recommend still buying products physically, because you're supporting your local economy more than ordering it on an online shop. Although of course I also have my online coffee shop, but I really aim for my kind of local community. It's just, of course, having a website makes it in theory more easy for people to order. But still, I would recommend. Okay, so this is, you see, this is how you get this open, the grinder, so we can have a look at the grinder. So you can see it's a very tiny ceramic burr set. So I'm very curious if it will be possible to make. So you just kind of insert it, and then it gets fixed, and here you can set the grind setting. Now I'm going to go not for the espresso at first. You kind of want to season the burrs a little bit. So here that would be a very tiny brush. Okay, it's tiny burr, so I guess you just need a tiny brush to help you clean it. But that's probably not too practical. So this gets inserted this way. Now to give it a run, I have here the huge, as I previously referred to them, humongous Vietnam Robusta beans that honestly are not that tasty. It's very bitter. It's an extreme Robusta both in size and taste, but now I just kind of want to use them for seasoning. I did recently go to an event for my children. Kind of, they had a small concert, and I basically offered this as a, you know, I made the big batch of coffee, and then to my surprise, people enjoyed it. They you know, they just had their cup, and of course there were some sweets at the same time. So if you have sweets, you know, people don't really notice the coffee. That's why people think it's not that necessary to have very quality beans, but it is. It keeps going. It keeps going because, of course, it's set to the maximum the maximum capacity. So it already runs, that's nice. Now I'm just going to try a few beans to see if they already come out, because my intuition is telling me that this it is able to process them. That is amazing. Let's see if anything gets stuck. Let's open it up quickly. Okay. Yeah, you see they're getting squashed basically. Now with these big beans, and you shouldn't go with your finger inside a live machine, but with these big beans, one thing that helps sometimes if it will get stuck on it is just to go even more on budget and just squash them a little bit, reduce them a little bit in size. Alright, let's give this a try with a bigger batch and see how much is it able to get through it. So again, you just make it tight a bit, get it to the biggest position, of course get this on top, and then there we go. Let's see how far this one is getting. It gets completely through those beans, so I'm about processing size, I'm happily surprised because such small burrs. Now the thing that I'm going to do now is I'm going to prepare an espresso shot on the finest setting and see if that still works, and I'll come back at the moment that I'm actually preparing the espresso shot, because this is really what I want to know and communicate. Can I mean there's a setting for espresso, but having the smallest setting, and I'll probably go for an 8 gram shot on the flare where I'm able to measure the pressure. So if I can block the shot, well, this is good enough to make espresso, definitely. And at that price point, it would be hard to find anything better. If my shot doesn't work out, it doesn't mean that there's no combination of type of beans, amount of the coffee that you're using for your espresso shot, and the kind of espresso machine you're using, whether it be a flare, a DeLonghi Dedica, a Gaggia Classic. There's probably some settings still possible, and definitely with a pressurized basket everything is possible, but we're not considering that here. So let's find out together what will happen. Now grinding on the finest setting, the humongous beans. And it does get stuck on them, so I'll have to go back to processing it. So we're back, ready for the test. As you can follow, we had it grinding on the finest setting, the espresso setting. Now, as I have a feel, so always feel your ground. This was, this is very, you can just hear that, right? That's very coarse. And then clearly this is a lot finer. It still feels not powdery though. Now powdery, that would be too fine. So definitely this is not an option for Turkish coffee. Although from a physical process you could try and make Turkish coffee with this. you would notice in the taste, but because that's just boiling in the water, it doesn't really have an impact in another way, except that less would go into solution, I guess. But no more further arguments, just less. The proof of the pudding is in the eating. I expect that it will just flow through, but you know, it's an experiment, so I genuinely don't know what to expect. I hope to be able to offer you the best budget option for espresso. So actually, to do that, instead of having 8 grams, I just filled it to the max capacity, and of course now I don't remember what the actual weight was. Somewhere around 8 grams, I would think. Okay. Oh. It's already splashing through. Did I make a mistake? Did I not include something? No. This is just this. You see, there's no pressure. There's no pressure because this, you know, it might say espresso, but you see, I mean, even without doing anything, it's just, you know, not able to resist the water at all, you know. Just with my pinky, There we go. Usually with, you know, using the Espresso, for example, I block my shots. I tend to block my shots, and then I tend to, when I hopefully don't block them, I tend to go for 30-second shots, and I end up with 12 grams in the cup. Now this, you know, it's also because of it's not able to withstand the water flow, splashes around a little bit. But who knows the taste? Of course, the taste will be disappointing because it's these huge Robusta beans. But okay, I mean, it's still coffee. You still can practice a workflow. Now, luckily, I bought this not with the intent of making espresso shots with it. Double end, let's say, doing this experiment for your benefit, so that you know that unfortunately this €40 price option is not good if you want to enjoy espresso at home. I would say that the consistency in the coarse grounds, it's a lot more consistent than what you ever can get with a blade grinder, right? With a blade grinder, to get anywhere near this, you have to shake it, you have to throw it about. This, you know, it can even process quite huge beans without too much trouble and give you a reasonably consistent. I mean, and there's going to be fines in here. I mean, this is now from using the smallest setting, but there's going to be more fines and of course a more expensive device, grinder. There's a reason why they are priced at different price points, and you could see also the size of the burrs in this one. But it's, you know, to not have to do a manual labor of grinding, it gets you started. The irony of course is it gets you started for filter, where manually grinding isn't really that much of an effort. So despite last video being on a grinder, this video for budget options being on a grinder, next episode is probably going to be on a cheap manual grinder again, hoping to find an option where you're able to use it for, well, you know, any espresso worthy grinder. Usually you can use for filter as well and get at least better results than using a blade grinder, because, you know, opening up is easier than getting it very close together and getting a very fine grind. It might mean it has more fines than really coffee aficionados would like to have in the result, but the main impact will still be actually the beans, the type of coffee that you're using for your brew. So I hope this episode is helpful. So I'm not totally dishing this. Just if you want to make espresso, it's simply not good enough based on this one test. Again, there might be a combination of settings, probably not with the Gaja Classic, which has a 58mm portafilter, but you know, you want to have a smaller portafilter that builds up the depth. And so you might want to go even smaller than, I think this is like 49 or even a little bit smaller, but that's tricky to find. Or you could explore with a pressurized basket, but that doesn't really have my recommendation either. Then I hope you're able to enjoy filter coffees, which is just a different ball game. So thanks for following this episode. I learned something, hope you learned something as well. Invest your money wisely. Don't just go rush off and buy yourself a full espresso or filter equipment without studying the options beforehand. And of course, here on YouTube, many of the coffee YouTubers have videos on different devices. In the James Hoffman video, the model on which this one is based was also featured at some point in time. So go out and explore. Thanks for filming this episode though, and hope to see you on a next one.